Good morning, all. It's January 27th, 21, and I'm Eric. How is everyone doing this morning? I hope well. Well, as you can see, I have tabs open. I'm going to try to get to each of these tabs, and with the exception of this one, I'm still reading through. But for those of you who did not get the post yesterday, I put a video up on Bitchute. It's a video that you probably should check out. I could not upload it to YouTube because, well, just like the Parkland shooting video got my last channel banned, or the channel before that, I don't remember. That video I did yesterday would do the same. So, it's over at Bitchute. I will put a link in the pinned comment at the top of the comment section and in the description box. Alright. And by the way, if you like my content, please do give a thumbs up, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff. It helps tremendously to draw in viewers and subscribers. COVID-19 response sparks spike in Americans' anxiety and depression. Now, many Americans were already having big problems with anxiety and depression before any of this happened. And as I said in that video yesterday, while they claim to have run the attempt to minimize the societal and economic impacts, it is my contention that instead they wargamed it to maximize those things. So, and you really want to check that video out. I did a decent job of outlining the false flag of K-19. Anyway, this comes from Tyler Durden over at Zero Hedge. Aside from nearly 400,000 Americans to date and wreaking havoc on the country's economy, Statista Felix Richter notes that the COVID pandemic is also taking a heavy toll on mental health. And again, Americans have been suffering one form of mental illness or another for quite some time now. And it's no wonder. That's according to data compiled by the U.S. Census Bureau and the National Center for Health Statistics, show that more than 4 in 10 U.S. adults have developed symptoms of depression or anxiety by the end of 2020. This is a sharp increase over the comparable survey conducted in the first half of 2019. Headline: Pandemic causes spike in anxiety and depression. And here's the charts here. So this is January through June of 2019. 8.2%, 28.2%, and 36.9% symptoms of anxiety disorder. Symptoms of depressive disorder, 6.6%, and this is for May 14th through the 19th of 2020. Okay, I think I kind of screwed that chart up here. Alright, let me try this again. Yellow represents January through June of 2019. The hot pink is May 14th through 19th of 2020, and purple is December 9th through the 21st of 2020. So, in January of 2019, 8.2% of people had symptoms of anxiety disorder. And then it jumped by 20%, a little more, in May of 2020, specifically May 14th through the 19th. It's a pretty large jump there. And then it jumped again 36.9%, might as well say 37% in December, or December 9th through the 21st. Symptoms of depressive disorder. Again, January through June of 2019, 6.6%. And May 14th through the 19th of 2020, 24.4%. And then again, in December, or December 9th to the 21st, 2020, it jumped to 3.2%, or 30%. And I'm not really sure why they included this last one here, but we'll go ahead and hit it too. Symptoms of anxiety or depressive disorder. 11% January through June 2019, 33.9%, or 34% from May 14th through the 19th of 2020, and then 42.4% December 9th through the 21st, 2020. That's a pretty large increase. And there's an asterisk. It says based on self-reported frequency of anxiety and depression symptoms. They are derived from responses to the first two questions of 8-item Patent Health Questionnaire, or PHQ-2, and the 7-item Generalized Anxiety or GAD-2 scale. Sources are the CDC, NCHS, U.S. Census Bureau. So, in the video I did yesterday, I talked about how on the Event 201 website, it talked about how we wanted to, and I'm just paraphrasing here, minimize the societal and financial or economic impact of a pandemic. And if that was the case, then they did a really bad job at minimizing the impact. It is my, again, contention that instead of minimizing the impact, they have exacerbated the impact of their actions. And it should be painfully obvious to people that's exactly what happened. And then don't think for a minute that they couldn't minimize the impacts. They could have They'd simply let people do their business, instead of shutting them down. That would have gone a long way of minimizing the effect on people. I mean, of course, people are going to be depressed if they're locked in their home for a long period of time. Of course, they're going to be depressed if they lost their job, looking at losing their home, from their cars. Yeah, I'd say that they probably knew that was going to be the outcome, and, well, intentionally drove people in that direction. So the latest findings are arrived from the Household Pulse Survey, HPS, which has been launched to produce data on the societal and economic impacts of COVID-19 on American households. A total of 60,000 Americans were surveyed about their mental health between December 9th and 21st, asked to report how often they have felt down, depressed, hopeless, or anxious in the last week, how often they have been unable to stop worrying, or shown little interest or pleasure in doing things. All symptoms that have been shown to be associated with diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder or major depressive disorder. As the chart above showed, that the share of respondents showing signs of anxiety or depression has nearly quadrupled compared to the results obtained before the pandemic. So, more people than ever before are filled with anxiety, fear, depression. More people than before are drinking more alcohol, smoking more cigarettes, doing more drugs. And most of you know that I'm not flat out against drugs. But when that's all you have to do because you're locked down, it's definitely going to cause you a lot of problems. And then we can jump over to the UK. UK cops, or UK COVID cops, threaten €200 fines for people having snowball fights. And this was authored by Paul Joseph Watson. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing here, but police in the UK enforcing coronavirus lockdown restrictions are threatening people with €200 fines for if they engage in snowball fights or sledging. And I'm not really sure what they mean by sledging, probably sledding, as we say it here. So if you're having any kind of fun over there in stiff-lipped, obedient UK, well, you're going to get fined and possibly even jailed. And this is, yes, really, snow fell in many parts of the country over the weekend, providing a welcome distraction to the fact that the country has been under some form of lockdown for the best part of 10 months. However, this has prompted authorities to become even more draconian, urging people not to engage in snowball fights or sledding or face the risk of being fined. Now, last one here, it's in quotes, we are currently receiving lots of calls and reports relating to snowballs being thrown at people outside sledding, tweeted Surrey police. Please stay safe and remember that COVID regulations do still apply. Wiltshire Police Inspector Lewis McCoy was more insistent, tweeting, in quotes again, "I don't want to be dealing with sledders and snow fights. There's still a lockdown on. Think about it. Don't be tempted." Oh, I think I fibbed you here. Swindon police posted a message to Facebook announcing that they were keeping tabs on snowball fights. You're fucking serious. In quotes, they're currently responding to reports of about 150 children and about 50 adults gathering in the Sevenfield area of Swindon, and concerns have been raised that they are not abiding by the coronavirus guidelines of force. Yeah, really. Please do not gather in large groups. You are reminded that fixed penalty notices may be issued to those who do not abide by regulations. And another one, in quotes again, "We are in the midst of a pandemic, and failing to socially distance and wear face masks could aid in the spread of the virus." Woo! The virus. Woo! Okay? Kingston police. "It's so beautiful to watch the snow fall from the comfort of your own home. Plus, there's a pandemic going on. Hashtag stay safe in the snow day, or hashtag snow day, by playing in the back garden. And don't forget to drive carefully if you are allowed." Wow. Allowed. Aren't they so dirty? Apparently you can get hit with that €200 fine even if you're driving around just looking at the snow. A large snow fight in the park in Leeds also attracted media condemnation, despite students involved claiming they're just trying to blow off some steam to combat mental health problems caused by lockdown. I I just cannot believe people are not pushing back against this bullshit much, much harder than we have been. And as a result of the planning that went into this fiasco that we've experienced, U.S. suffers sharpest rise in poverty rate in more than 50 years. And this comes from a mainstream source, Bloomberg. The end of 2020 brought the sharpest rise in the U.S. poverty rate since 1960s, according to a study released Monday. Economists Bruce Meyer from the University of Chicago, James Sullivan of the University of Notre Dame found that the poverty rate increased by 2.4 percentage points during the latter half of 2020 as the U.S. continued to suffer from the economic impact of C-19. More specifically, they are suffering, or we are suffering, economic impacts not from C-19, but the dictatorial actions taken by people like Governor Lightfoot there in Chicago, and people like Gavin Newsom, fucking Andrew Cuomo, and the list could go on. They are the ones responsible for that increase in poverty, not C-19. The percentage point rise is nearly double the largest annual increase in poverty since the 1960s. This means an additional 8 million people nationwide are now considered poor. And probably, among them. Moreover, the poverty rate for Black Americans is estimated to have jumped by 5.4 percentage points, or by 2.4 million individuals. And again, the impacts are not from COVID. It's from the dictatorial orders and decisions made by politicians. But why? Why have they been doing this? What could be the purpose behind what they've done? How about the Great Reset? Could that be the purpose? Could it be at least part of the motivation? Yeah, probably so. Not to mention massive wealth transfers. Not to mention more seized power from the government, among many other things. Okay, so a recent interview with the Epoch Times, Josh Phillips, has sparked a rash of research and investigative journalism in order to see if what I read was true. Journalist Leo Hallman, and this comes from technocracy.news. Leo Hallman, for one, is fearlessly reporting on the World Economic Forum's Great Reset and calling it out for what it is: a blatant, in-your-face assault. And that comes from TN Editor. The blatant, in-your-face assault on free speech by America's largest tech companies is about more than just stifling political dissent. It's also about advancing the agenda of globalists with the designs on seizing the world economy, said Patrick Wood, founder and director of Citizens for Free Speech. And they go on to say that it's part of a global revolution now in progress. And I mentioned a few days ago that these people, it is a communist, a strange fusion of communism, fascism, and crony capitalism, which they're calling stakeholder capitalism. Talk about Orwellian, but it's all part of a global communist revolution that's now in progress, and QAnon helped this along. So they've done this damage, knowing full well what they were doing. It was premeditated, as I showed in my video yesterday. The preparations for 2020 stretch back to at least 2015. the revolution isn't being fought with guns and tanks like the revolutions of old. So it's being fought on platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and others. Its advocates walk in the halls of the United Nations, Vatican, the IMF, the British House of Windsor, the World Economic Forum, the European Union, and now the White House. Of course, they say "and now," but I find it hard to believe that, the old administration had absolutely nothing to do with it. So, Biden, I don't know what I'm signing here. Kamala said, sign it, or sign it anyway. So, in the new system, people will rent the things they need. Yeah. Remember, they don't want you to own anything. They want you to rent it. And who are you renting it from, though? Well, you're renting it from people like Bill Gates, the Rockefellers, Soros, the Sachs, Bloomberg, Bezos, Buffett, and Zuckerberg, along with other foreign investors from China and Saudi Arabia. Yeah, that's who's going to own the things that you rent. Isn't that nice? The same people, over and over again. As a certain point of this plan, society retreats into a type of neo-feudalism. And I think we've already been in this neo-feudalism for a while, and it's just increasing its impact. But what do I know? I'm just a dumb white man, right? Bill Gates is quietly buying up farmland across America, putting ranchers out of business while investing in lab-grown meat. And he recently, as most of you probably already know, became the nation's largest owner of farmland. Doesn't that bother you? Doesn't that, I don't know, make you oddly suspicious as to what Bill Gates' intent is? If it doesn't, it probably should. So, I'm in a paragraph here for this particular article, in quotes again. Writer Alex Newman observed the following about the Great Reset in his recent article for the New American. Once again, in quotes. In the not too distant future, you will own absolutely nothing, but you will like it and happy, according to the totalitarians and deep state globalists pushing what they call the Great Reset. You will also have no privacy, they say. Everything will change. And somehow the advocates of this communistic, idealistic vision of the future, the Economic Forum, the United Nations, and the IMF, and let's not forget the British royal family, along with many more, have decreed they will be happy. Moving on, the same individuals that say that, you'll own nothing and be happy about it, through their decrees. If my computer here cooperates, maybe I'll pause it. Alright, so here we are. American billionaires have grown what? 1.1 trillion richer during the pandemic. And these are the same billionaires that want you to own nothing. Oh, CNN, new source of all places. But we'll hit the first graph, maybe two, and call it for this one. U.S. billionaires have collectively become 1.1 trillion richer, nearly 40% since mid-March, according to a report published Tuesday by Progressive Groups Institute for Policy Studies and Americans for Tax Fairness. In other words, not only have the super wealthy recovered their losses from the spring, many are far much better off than before. It was even possible. We're talking about people who do not have a worry in the world. They don't have to worry about their electric bill, electric and cut off because they've lost their income. They don't have to worry about their family starving because their lives are still fully intact. We're talking about people who cannot have a want or a need. It's all taken care of them. And a lot of these people have stolen that wealth from the American taxpayer. So they go on to claim, CNN, that the pandemic has worsened America's already troubling inequality crisis. Staggering gains at the top contrast sharply with the struggles of those at the bottom, many of which are flying pandemic people, workers, and lost their jobs or had wages cut. America's 660 billionaires now hold $4.1 trillion in wealth, 2/3 more than the amount held by the bottom 50%. So there's that. Now, do you see why? One of the reasons? There's the wealth transfer. Move on to this. Biden revokes Trump order that shielded U.S. power grid from Chinese involvement. I wonder what that means. I wonder if that means China has a direct impact on our power grid. I think it does. This is a discern, or DISRN. Jeffrey Swindle. I'll just hit the first paragraph, and then we'll move on to the next. President Joe Biden has rescinded an executive order of former President Trump that was designed to prevent foreign countries meddling in the U.S. power grid. Trump's order specifically prohibited any acquisition, importation, transfer, or installation of bulk power system electrical equipment by foreign adversaries. So, your beloved President Joe Biden has again thrown Americans under the bus to China. Something important to mention here, that Trump's order explained that the bulk power systems provides the electricity for, get this, national defense, vital emergency services, critical infrastructure, economy, and way of life in the United States, that foreign actors were increasingly creating and exploit vulnerabilities in it. Now, over here at the Free Thought Check. Over here at the Free Thought Project, that is, if my computer cooperates with me. I just made a bunch of room on it. I had to delete 75 videos. It should be operating a little bit better, but I guess not. I'm going to have to take a day for computer maintenance here. Let's start with this one. So, 18 days, Trump did not drain the swamp. And this is from, well, let's see here, TLAV, Derek Oz. Okay, so here's number 1 of 18. Nominating insiders. That's number 1. From the moment he took office, it was clear that Donald Trump was going to continue the practice of his predecessors and continue the revolving door relationship between government and corporations. Now, I've explained quite a few times that our government is not really a government. It is listed as a corporation. And legally, a corporation must do everything possible to maximize the profits of its shareholders. And that's exactly what they do, except the shareholders isn't the American citizen, but rather the mega corporations. So, in quotes here, President Donald Trump nominated Peter C. Wright to be the Assistant Administrator for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Office of Land and Emergency Management. The nomination of Wright is another indication that the Trump administration will continue the practice of nominating industry insiders and corporate lawyers to positions of power. And of course, this is a conflict of interest, right? On many, many ways or levels. In addition to his work with Dow, Wright's LinkedIn page lists him as an environmental attorney for Monsanto from 1989 to 1996. Conflict of interest. Number 2, cozy with big oil. Number 3, cozy with big pharma. this is what should have been a major red flag for those people foolish enough to back any politician. Another indicator that Trump continued the practice of allowing the corporations to regulate themselves was his appointment of various cronies of Big Pharma. In 2017, Trump chose Alex Azar for Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Azar formerly served as U.S. Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services under George Bush from 2005 to 2007. In June of 2007, Azar began working as a lobbyist for pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly and Company. Conflict of interest. Number 4, support for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm not sure how to say it, but I'll try. Dr. Slaoui was not the only connection to the Bill or to the Gates Foundation we saw from the Trump administration. In October, the NIH signed contracts with companies connected to DARPA, Big Tech, and the Gates Foundation. And in addition to this, Trump signed off on giving billions of taxpayer dollars to the Gates Foundation and funded Gavi, Global Vaccine Alliance. If that's not a red flag for his supporters, I really don't know what would be. Maybe take the guns first. Could have been it. But it wasn't. No matter what Donald Trump did, his sycophantic supporters continued to support his policies. Am I arguing that he did nothing at all good? Absolutely not. But he did much more harm than good. Ending investigations into pesticide dangers. Yeah. So he helped Bayer, Monsanto, Syngenta, Dow, among others, in hiding the damages caused by pesticides. Number 6, making GMOs easier to enter the food supply. Again, that should have been a red flag. Number 7, battle gun rights. Number 8, support of and expansion of the 5G rollout. And there was much opposition from thousands of scientists, doctors, researchers, activists, and health professionals. So, number 9, support of the Syrian false flag narrative. April of 2018, the United States and some of the international community claimed that President Bashar al-Assad had gassed his own people in Douma, Syria. Now, that sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound familiar, gassing their own people? Isn't that what our military was doing to us in experimentation? Somehow I don't recall Russian bombs being dropped on the United States as a result of this. But maybe my memory is faulty. Okay, the number 10, Drone Emperor. While Obama was known as the Drone King for his reliance on drone technology, and we know all about this, Obama, They used it to take out accused terrorists and killing their innocent families. But Trump took it to another level. First, he removed rules which required reporting on drone deaths that were put in place by Obama. Once he decided that he had his turn with drone murder. In fact, in 2019, airstrikes from the U.S. and its allies in Afghanistan killed 700 civilians, more than any other year since the beginning of the war in 2001. Number 11, keeping the fight. Number 11, fighting to keep the presidential kill list secret. In December of 2017, the American Civil Liberties Union filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration in an attempt to force the release of newly established rules related to the U.S. military secret program killing. The program was established during the Obama administration and then expanded under Donald Trump. But sent by God. Make America great again. Number 12, lying to the 9/11 victims' families. This should another red flag. Really, every single one of these instances should have been a red flag to Trump supporters. Number 12, lying to the 9/11 victims' families. Despite making vague statements about finding out the truth about 9/11, Donald Trump never used his position to challenge the official narrative surrounding the 9/11 attacks. Even worse, Trump actually lied to the victims' family members when he promised he would get to the bottom of the Saudi involvement in 9/11. And I recall Trump going to Saudi Arabia and participating but hey, make America great again. 13, imprison an American citizen without trial or charge. A story that received way less attention than it deserved. The Trump administration held an American citizen without trial or charge for over a year. An American man had reportedly traveled to research and document the ongoing conflict in Syria when he was seized by Kurdish forces and handed over to the U.S. military. But wait, I thought the military wasn't supposed to be used against American citizens. Number 14, continued support of the NDAA indefinite detention clause. Number 15, attempted to block testimony on CIA torture. Number 16, empowering and expanding police state. Remember when Obama was the president, the likes of Alex Jones, Mike Adams, Dave Hodges, and the list can go on and on. They were so afraid of the police state. But when Donald Trump came in, he was praised for his police state empowerment, and they practically begged for martial law. Practically. Number 17, supporting persecution and prosecution of Julian Assange and Bradley Manning. Number 18, Trump's nearly 3-decade relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump supporters will mentioned Bill Gates having connection to Jeffrey Epstein and the Clintons and many other people, but really didn't acknowledge Donald Trump's 3-decade relationship between himself, pedophile extraordinaire Jeffrey Epstein. Alright, so there's one. Go back up here. And show you that, despite the obvious tyranny, despite the obvious unconstitutionality of what's been done to us as a name, despite the fact that most of these politicians are criminals, their enforcement class will simply ignore all those crimes and instead focus on 15-year-old homeless children, giving or forcing the dog to maul them. A small 14-year-old boy had his hands in the air and entirely surrendered when a Utah cop dragged him okay. Let me restart that one. So, this happened in Salt Lake City, Utah. In September, Rethought Project reported on Officer Nicholas Pierce and his subsequent after he forced his canine to maul a kneeling, unarmed, surrendered 14-year-old with his hands in the air. Pierce's case has since shed light on the use of canines in the Salt Lake City Department. And his attack on a man, I guess I was wrong, was just the tip of the iceberg. Apparently, the department had no problem sicking dogs on harmless surrendering children as well. After charges were announced against Pierce, Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown said his office had reviewed 27 times where police dogs bit someone since 2018. They flagged 18 of those cases, 66%, as possibly criminal. Though Pierce has been the only officer charged, the officer in the horrifying incident below may soon face the same fate. And by the way, just because they're charged does not mean they will be convicted. Alright, so despite the boy surrendering to police, inside a restaurant was a 14-year-old boy. When police said that they were going to release the dog, the boy quickly jumped up on the counter and put his hands in the air to surrender to police. Despite the boy surrendering, he did not call his dog Jagger. Instead, he forced the dog to hit and get that guy as the child stood on the counter with his hands in the air. And the boy yelled, "Please, I'm a 14-year-old." Is there a video of this? Well, I'll be damned. Let's see if it plays. Hmm. Well, are you going to say something? Is it going to play? Here we go.
It's the police department! Come out! I'm gonna send the dog! You will get bit! Okay, I'm not gonna deploy him.
Come in or we'll send the dog!
Get ready. He's coming this way. He's coming this way. Hold on, Jaeger. Hold on! Hold on! Hold on! Hold on, Jaeger! Jaeger, hold on! What? Hit it! Hit! 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 Hop! Hop! Hit! Hop! Jaeger, hop! No! Get on the ground! Jaeger, here! Hit! 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 I was working you out! Stop fighting the dog! Stop fighting! Stop fighting the dog! Please! Please!
So, it looked like it was maybe that 14-year-old had been somewhere he shouldn't have been. But the fact is, if he was surrendering, he had his hands in the air, and should have been no releasing of that dog. These are the people that believe are there to protect you. But the reality of the matter is they are there to force obedience in the edicts of these wannabe dictators. U.S. ignoring history plans to round up citizens in detention facilities over public health. Despite video showing off-duty cop killing unarmed dad in a road rage fit, cop still on the job. Police refuse record request after cops kill unarmed child on video, then got a $70,000 bonus. You see how that behavior is rewarded. Officers did nothing wrong by forcing completely innocent woman to strip and remove her tampon. These are the people Donald Trump, his supporters, and Republicans, conservatives in general, call brave. You know, the same people that cowered in fear behind their squad cars while people were supposedly being gunned down in Parkland. But I digress. Now they're starting to, push the idea of wearing 3 masks. 3. And if they become a mandate, who will be enforcing it? Your brave men and women in law enforcement. It's moral edict enforcement. Taxpayers shell out $200,000 after cops mace beat innocent dad for filming cops' unlawful arrest of son. Man arrested for legal, and that's, I can't believe, It's a legal anti-police meme as ACAB declared felony gang lingo. Now, lingo is a felony. And your heroes, your brave men and women of law enforcement are going to enforce that. Now, this is a really bad one, and I'll leave it at this. This will be the last one. Really bad, you know. 4 cops charged facing life in prison after innocent family and dog in their home. This happened in Houston, Texas. See what blind court for these sorts of agencies leads to? The murder of an innocent Houston couple made national headlines.
Also heard from the DA at that same news conference about the doctor in regards to the Harding Street raid that left 2 people dead in 2019. You may recall the Harris County DA announced new charges ranging from 1 officer charged in the death of Dennis Tuttle to charges for organized crime. Those charges stem from aggregate theft with government documents. The district says the officers were involved in a scheme to steal money and from the city of Houston. That deadly no-knock warrant and raid conducted in January of 2019 and left.
No, the first little bit of it, because I've gone a couple minutes over an hour now. I know some of you don't like longer videos, but all this should be covered. Alright? So the murder of an innocent Houston couple made national headlines in 2019 as police smearing their names and threatening those who didn't believe their official narrative. As the months passed, we learned that the Houston Police Department's raid the home of Dennis Tuttle and Regina Nicholas was based on lies, and they were murdered for no reason. The following May, the case had reached a turning point after the family hired a forensic expert to examine the home and found that there is no evidence the officers encountered gunfire. And in a major move in August 2019, the cop who lied to obtain the warrant for the raid was charged with murder in the first degree, with several other charges. With several others charged shortly after. Now, a half a dozen more officers have been charged, with 4 of them facing life in prison. And District Attorney Kim Ah, in quotes, said, "The consequences of corruption are 2 innocent, ordinary people were killed in their homes. 4 police officers were shot, 1 of them paralyzed, and now all of them will face Harris County jurors who will decide their fate." So, I covered this before, but these are the people you, the public, the right-wingers, and now apparently some of the leftists call heroes. There's a reason why the suicide rate among police is so high. There's a reason why the suicide rate among military personnel is so high. Think about it. And until next time, kill the state and live free.